Oh, there we go. And we're live on Virtually Connecting. This is Rebecca Hogue. I'm a Canadian who lives in Santa Clara, California. I'm a blogger and co-founder of Virtually Connecting. And we are live today at the Digital Pedagogy Institute in the network track, talking with the folks about what Virtually Connecting is all about. And we have a whole sea of people here, so I'm going to ask everybody virtually to introduce themselves, the virtual folks first. Very shortly, just tell us who you are and where you're at physically.
I'm Maha Bailey from Egypt, and I am the co-founder of virtuallyconnecting.org, and I'll talk to you about that as soon as everybody else introduces themselves. But just a quick question. How many people in the room knew about Virtually Connecting before this morning when Sean mentioned it? Can someone tell us how many people raised their hands, other than Bonnie and Lisa? And Sarah, of course. So how many is that?
8-ish? Yeah, about 8.
Oh, that's quite a lot. Okay.
And how many are in the room?
28, 29? Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Wow.
1/3. Upper third, not lower third. That's a Google Hangouts joke. The tagline at the bottom that says your name is called the lower third. Anyway, Suzanne, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Suzanne here, and I study learning technologies at the University of Minnesota. But right now, I'm not in Minnesota. I'm actually in the UK. I moved here 2 years ago, actually, because I finished all my coursework, and so I'm working on my dissertation from here.
Bonnie with an I. There's a Bonnie with an I with us.
Hi, hello to the Bonnie with an E. I am Bonnie Stahoviak, and I'm in Southern California. And one of the great ways that I get to connect virtually is by running a podcast called the Teaching in Higher Ed podcast. And for those of you who enjoyed and got a lot out of Audrey Waters' talk, I have an interview with her if you'd like to check it out. But I have lots of other great interviews to teachinginhighered.com.
Hi, Bonnie.
Hi.
Autumn and then Ellen.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, hi, I'm Autumn Keynes, and I live in Columbus, Ohio. I work in ed tech. I go to school. I'm a master's student in ed tech, and I blog, I tweet, I like to connect with people. We'll leave it at that. Bye.
I'm Alan Levine, coming to you from Strawberry, Arizona. That is a real town. And itinerant web geek, persistent MOOC dropout, and I like to make fun of MOOCs. And I'm a friend of Maha's, like everybody.
We just talked about why people drop out, Alan. We should have had you.
I lasted a week once.
So let me just tell you very briefly how this Virtually Connecting thing started. Give a chance to Rebecca to give her perspective on it. Give the people who are here, some of them who have used this before, and then open the floor for you guys to ask questions or talk about whatever you want. So it all started that I had a few conference presentations accepted at the ET4 online conference in April in Texas, and I couldn't go, and I was really, really upset about it, and I was whining to everybody about that. And then Rebecca offered to be my buddy on site over there and to start doing that. And it started out that it was just something personal between me and her. It was very selfish, really. I just wanted to meet everyone who was there, and Rebecca offered. And we had never, ever met synchronously on video before. I had never heard her voice or seen her face moving except like in a recording. But then we started to prepare for it, and as we started doing that, we realized that if we did Google Hangout that was live streamed, it would actually be easier technically for me, not because we wanted to share it with people originally. And then we realized that we were making other people happy. Other people were enjoying this connection. Other people like me who had children who couldn't travel or who didn't have the funds to travel had this opportunity to meet with people on site. And it was more fun, I think, than, I had access virtually to watch the conference sessions and to tweet, but I didn't have an opportunity to actually talk to the people on site until Rebecca offered to do this for me. And when we finished it, people started asking us, including Lisa, who's with you in the room, started asking us to just expand it beyond just one conference, and we've been doing that. And I'm going to let Rebecca talk about that. AK just joined in, by the way. Hi, AK.
Okay.
Rebecca here. Yeah, so on the first conference, I just wanted to comment a bit about how Maha says it was selfish on her part, but it was also kind of selfish on my part. Maha knew a lot of people at the conference, a lot more people than I knew, and in some ways, buddying with her was sort of my gateway to becoming part of the in crowd at the conference. It gave me a reason to approach people that I otherwise would not have known, didn't know who they were, or didn't know enough or have that confidence to just come up to somebody and say, oh, I want to talk to you about something or another, or talk to you about this or that. And so it was really, virtually connecting and this was at the ET for Online conference, gave me a way to meet so many more people through Maha. And it was interesting to see how our networks actually merged, because there were a few people that I knew that she didn't know, but a lot of people that she knew that I didn't know, that have then led into deeper connections. And I think that that's sort of part of what this is all about. The other part of what it's all about is to try and continue the conversations and let those conversations happen beyond the people that are in the room.
I just want to jump in. For the people in the room with me, this is a Google Hangout, for those of you who haven't been on a Google Hangout before. And you'll notice that the minute somebody starts to talk, the screen goes to them and shows them, which is kind of cool. And what I was actually at ET4 Online in April, and so kind of got to see some of the early Hangouts with Rebecca and Maha, and they were happening in the hallway, and they were just kind of conversations. Rebecca would be like, hey, do you have a second to talk to Maha? And it was really very cool, right? They had actually, is it true that you guys first came across each other in Rhizo 14? So I had talked earlier about that MOOC that ended up going on for a year, and that was really I don't think it was my first interaction with either of you, but it was how I got to know both of you, and I think how they got to know each other. So often when you do begin to network, then things kind of start to grow on their own, which is one of the interesting pieces of it, right? There are people here on the Hangout that I have never met before, people who I know from online, people who I've met face-to-face, and then people who are entirely new to me. And so there's kind of always new people to meet in the network, which is cool. Do you folks have any questions for Maha, Rebecca, anybody who's there about sort of what they're doing? Why? I'm actually curious, like for the people who are not Maha and Rebecca, what brings you here? Do you just kind of want to see us and talk with us, or?
It's all about you, Bonnie.
Thanks. That Bonnie, you mean, right?
No, you and her.
Autumn, did you want to talk about your experience?
Yeah, I'll tell you guys my story. My story's kind of fun. So I actually got to know Maha, maybe Rebecca a little bit in Rhizo 15. And Rhizo 15, I think, was just coming to its end. But I mean, when I got on Rhizo 15, like, social media just blew up for me, right? Because I was talking to all these people, like, for 6 weeks about all of these different things. I was just, like, really paying attention. And so I went to, like, an outdoor concert camping thing called Nelsonville in Nelsonville, Ohio. And, but I still had my phone with me. And so I was just kind of checking my Twitter stream, and I saw Maha tweet some stuff out at the Haystack Conference, that she was doing this with the Haystack Conference, and I'd always wanted to go to the Haystack Conference, but I didn't really think it was something that I could really participate in. I was at a conference, I was at a concert, you know what I mean? I was camping. I was like, I did not think it was something that I'd be able to do, so I just favorited her tweet. But she reached out to me, and she was like, hey, do you want to be a part of this? And I was like, well, I do, but I'm at this thing. And she was like, well, you know, there's actually a Google Hangout app. You could do this from your phone if you've got a connection, and you obviously have a connection because you're tweeting me. So, so I was like, sure. And so then it was just great, because I was able to take a little bit of time out from this this concert thing that I was at. And I mean, I'm an ed tech geek. I want to talk about this stuff all the time. It's not like it's my job, it's my drudgery. I'm kind of going through the motions with this stuff. I love this stuff, you know what I mean? I love talking about this stuff. I love going to conferences, and the thing that it really reminded me of so much, because I've seen so many attempts of I've seen so many attempts of people trying to virtualize conferences, right? And so they like live stream a session, and maybe there's some Twitter activity, but trying to make the connections is always difficult. And what I always hear is, you know, what's missing, though, is that social aspect. What's missing is that person you run into the hall who you get to have a connection with, or that person who introduces you to somebody who you ultimately end up having a connection with. How do you reproduce that? And I feel like virtually connecting is an attempt at that. And it's still kind of in its infancy, I feel like. I think Maha blogged about this just yesterday, that it's still kind of forming. We're still trying to figure it out. But it's an attempt to try to get at that, and I just think it's really inspiring, and I love being a part of it.
Just in case you guys didn't know, Autumn is one of our virtual buddies for this conference, and so I believe she and AK are gonna be working on the one on Friday, because neither Maha nor I can make it, so that's kind of cool.
We'll talk to you then, Autumn. And can I just point out to my folks here, do you see all the little chatting? This is how they communicate with each other while they're live streaming. This is live on the internet, but they also have a little back channel that helps them talk to each other.
I didn't realize that you guys could see that. I forgot. It doesn't show up in the recording, so people who are watching us other than you guys in the room don't see it.
Yeah.
So we're on.
Yeah, hadn't even occurred to us that you guys could see
it. About anyone.
Good call, Ellen.
So we have about 10 more minutes.
Okay, Suzanne,
Okay.
will say something, and then. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just go very quickly. I think it's funny that at the beginning of the conversation, Ellen said that I'm a friend of Maha, just like everybody. And I think it's true. You know, we're all friends of Maha and also Rebecca. And so my personal experience is that Maha has this amazing ability to bring people together. And I think this is what a major part of this is all about. It's all about, you know, relationships. So we get to know one another. And Maha, she mentioned that they realized that when they ran the first program, they realized that it was making people happy. So yeah, so I think it's making people happy, and we feel like, you know, I don't know, we feel like buddies, I guess.
Yeah, I was nodding with Autumn, because a lot of times when the virtual conference thing it's like the equivalent of, as a participant, of having the cheap seats at the ballpark where you're behind a pole. So you're viewing, but you're really not participating, and it's, of course, not the conference experience. So, I mean, the best part about what Virtually Connecting is doing is it's not about the content or the conference or the sessions. It's about what's going on there, and it's informal, and the technology doesn't work. And that's what makes it most interesting, that it's kind of ad hoc. And when I was teaching in part of DS-106, the digital storytelling thing, we were fooling around a lot with live radio and audio, and did a lot of these things at conferences similar to this, just in audio form. And there is something really powerful about the live eventness. Jim Grimm used to always talk about having a sense of eventness to the class. Where there's some excitement and things go wrong, and so and this brings actually the humanity to it. So, you know, when I saw, you know, Maha at, you know, ET4 Online, I was actually crashing the conference, I'll admit. But just like people huddled around an iPad, pretty simple to do. I mean, anybody can do this really easily. It's free. You get the full archive, and so, you know, even if you do like short snippets, and that's what is interesting about what Rebecca and Ma have done, is like fitting it in the breaks of the conference. So you get to see what's going on, and, you know, they just call people over informally. So I just dig it. That's it.
Awesome. Thanks, Alan.
I'd say that I dig it as well, and for me it's one of those opportunities to keep the party going. If you go to any conference, whether you go in person or you attend virtually in some capacity like ET4 Online, once the conference is done, the party's done. The hashtag just kind of dies on the internet, a very slow or very quick death. but developing these connections with the variety of participants who either tweet or participate in these vConnects or both keeps the discussion going. So interesting ideas that came up in the conference can be further explored asynchronously through blogs and reading other people's contributions, or synchronously through tweet chats.
I'm just thinking that virtually connecting would be a great way to bring anyone in this room who's interested to, for instance, the DLearn 15 conference that I know a number of us are working on in October in Stanford. Love to have you come in person, but if you can't, maybe this would be a way to join in. Do you guys have any questions? You can tweet them out or come on up here and ask. I know we're in the dark to you guys, and I apologize, but our room has light. We couldn't see.
Really? I lost electricity this morning, so I can understand. Autumn says there's a question on Twitter about something, and then I want to see if anybody on your end has questions, and then I have a question for you. So the Twitter question was, how about those virtual robots for connecting at events, kind of like the one Brian Alexander used once. He's famous for that. So there's someone who gave me the opportunity to play with that, but it's a completely different thing than having an actual human being there, a warm-bodied human being who's actually inviting people to talk to you, and it becomes, you know, a social event for the people on site, I think, as well as the virtual people, versus being on your own in a robot that people are probably going to think is weird, I would suspect. And Brian Alexander has blogged about that. So it's go ahead, Rebecca.
I just want to say that part of the beauty of the virtually connecting is that it is a two-sided thing. The on-site person benefits from the connection as well. And when you put a robot there, you take away that benefit to the on-site person, right? So as the on-site person, I got to meet so many people and make so many real connections, and that would have been lost. So I think there's some of that gets lost. I think the on-site person also looks for spontaneity and can see some of those spontaneous things, like when we put the Rhizo poster up at ET for Online. Like, it was totally a spontaneous, oh, we need to get this on film kind of thing.
It almost gets in the way. It seems like, you know, to see like people huddled around, like their shoulders touching and laughing, I mean, that's real.
Can somebody tell me about the robot thing? Because I don't know about the robot thing. So
it's kind of like a moving thing on legs with an iPad, almost.
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry, go ahead. There was a little lag there.
Oh, if someone else wants to go ahead, that's fine.
They kind of roll around on wheels, and so sometimes I think the remote person can steer, but it's kind of a screen on top of a little mobile device. It's kind of curious and funny. It just comes off as weird to me.
It's sort of like a Segway, a Segway for an iPad.
yeah. Mall cop robot.
Yeah, something like that, I think. Does anybody in the room have a question, or can I ask a question to the people in the room? Bonnie, anybody have questions? They cannot be a shy group. I mean, come on.
I think this is a new thing, probably, but Lisa,
okay.
Do you have...
No, I'm ready for Maha's.
All right.
Okay.
So my question relates to, because I know you know, Sean said something about this event in the morning. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I have a question for you. Do you guys think that this kind of thing challenges privilege or reproduces privilege, or can you see problems with it? Or I mean, what do you guys think? Is this something that you'd like to see more of, or do you think there are problems with it?
Maha, can I add something to your question?
Sure.
Just
sure.
What would be some barriers for participation, I guess, in general for everyone?
Bonnie, we didn't hear that.
I'm just talking to the room. It's okay.
I was and
Sweet. Robin.
this is Robin. Hi. You might not be able to see me where I'm sitting, but hello.
Hi, Robin.
It's Robin.
Turn the iPad towards you. Yeah. Hey.
I just, when you asked that, like, does it sort of reinscribe privilege or subvert it or challenge it? it just seems like, I was going to say all week, but I don't know what day it is, but I think it's like Tuesday. But all week, it seems like the answer to all of these sort of like, dichotomous questions is death. So, everything, even just when we were talking about sort of like network potential, or working in the open, or even just the web in general, it seems like there's sort of lots of subversive power, and then lots of opportunities for reinscription of the status quo. And it does seem kind of like the same thing here. One thing I do have noticed, though, is like a couple of times I've opened up, hello to my friend who's on here, like I have a separate thing going on here, and you guys are in, and I feel like at a lot of conferences, you would have to ask a lot more permissions to broadcast, to send out, sort of proprietary content. And I love this sense that I can sort of open things up here as much as possible. But I am curious, like when you guys are at other places, if you feel, that's so hybrid pedagogy, right? That's so what this place is about. But do you feel the same thing at other places, or do you feel more like it's a closed network and other people didn't pay to get there, so it's hard to just come in?
Yeah. But we're just talking to people outside the sessions, right? The sessions aren't proprietary content, because we're not about the content like a lot of people here in the chat were talking about. So we don't periscope the sessions. We don't care so much about the sessions. We want to talk to the people who are at the conference to get their perspective on what they've been learning overall, which is like a good summary of a conference, right? Like at the end of a 2 or 3 day thing. So what have you guys been talking about? And then new conversations come in that, and then they're learning from us too. It's not just a one-way thing. So in some conferences like this one, yeah, Jesse and Bonnie are giving us a bigger role, and in D-Learn, because we know the people, so it's again a networking thing, like we know the people, so they're giving us more opportunities to interact with you guys. But if it's not, and then that was the case in Haystack, Kathy knew we were there, but it was like not part of anything. We're still meeting socially, right? We're meeting on a couch somewhere, or just after lunch. It's not part of the actual conference. That I don't think the conference organizers lose. I think they gain some sort of PR, like people are knowing what's happening at their conference, and they think about whether they want to go next year. I see everybody nodding here. Does anybody want to add anything to that?
I just wanted to add that we did learn some best practices after ET for Online. In part, things like when we do a buddy session, we try to have it where we back onto a wall instead of having an empty space behind us, so that we're not getting people jumping in that don't realize that they're live on the internet, and so people have to be much more. They're much more aware of what's happening around us. But there's some things that make it. Some things are just so much easier when the conference organizers embrace the buddy thing versus when they don't.
It seems like really interesting to me because for a long time I've been going to conferences which cost a lot of money. And then you get there and you're like, oh my gosh, you could have just posted all of this stuff. Like I went here, you read me this paper, like what's the point? I think you guys really highlight that the true value of conferencing is in the network, not so much networking, but the network. And to me, that just makes me think that ultimately the whole conference is going to shift to look more like this, because that content piece seems so much less valuable in terms of like what you would actually get on an airplane, to go and do. But
there are some things that come with doing this by audio, video. Obviously, Maha is my only friend in Egypt, so I really like to see her, and it's great to talk to her. But when we did stuff by audio, it's much less intrusive, and it's still very valuable. And there's something really comforting and caring about the human voice that can work in just a pure audio environment. So when you're sensitive about, you can also do these things. People don't have to stick their face on camera, so you give people the option to be offline, but it's more important to hear their voice necessarily than to see your face. Yeah, DS106 radio is how, we did things.
Can I just add something to what Ellen said and Robin said? So yeah, I think Robin brought up really interesting. Robin, right? I'm saying it right.
Yeah.
Really interesting issues, or concerns, questions. I don't know. Like I've been to some conferences in the U.S. AERA, Have you ever been to that? You probably, some of you have been. The conference is huge. It's massive, and you just run from one session to another, and it's impossible to, I think it's impossible to make meaningful connections in such a big conference. Well, not impossible, but really, really difficult, and especially if you're, if you're a bit shy, if you're not an outgoing person. Whereas with these virtual buddy sessions, we're on Twitter sometimes, we read each other's tweets, we blog sometimes. So I think it's an ongoing conversation, and it's just another thing within that ongoing conversation. I hope that made sense.
I actually need to step in terms of time, just because I don't want these guys to miss their only afternoon snack. And unfortunately, we're to afternoon snack time. But we are going to be virtually, you are virtually connecting here at DigPed Lab again on Friday. That's right, Autumn
and Wednesday during the unconference at 4:15.
Okay.
Where's our snacks? Where's our snacks, Bonnie?
You'll have virtual buddy snacks.
Yeah. Bring back a snack and wave it in front of you.
It's like Second Life food. Oh my God.
Someone said we have to enable cookies on our browser. Not my joke. This was someone else said this in another hangout.
But I wanted to thank you for joining us, giving us sort of the chance to get started on this, so that tomorrow with the unconference and on Friday, this will make sense for everybody. And it's a really, really cool way for this group to see a connection that works outside of Twitter, because a lot of what we use in academia is often Twitter, and this is a totally different way of doing it that works particularly well for conferences. Certainly by comparison with the little model that we tried yesterday, right, as in relation to Melanie Fullick's article, I really wanted to have these folks come in and sort of show us a different way of connecting to conferences. So thanks a lot. And for my group, I'm actually going to send everybody off to snacks at the same time. You guys have to get yours at home. But basically, we are not going to have a face-to-face session for the final session, the Knowledge Abundance Roundtable. You're on your own for your own Knowledge Abundance Roundtable. Feel free to convene in a hallway, in a coffee shop. Feel free to tweet from your hotel room. But I'd like you just to be thinking about knowledge abundance and ways to incorporate it, whether through any of these means or through many-to-many communications in your work. Try to share something or prepare something to present after lunch tomorrow for your little assignment. And that's really, I think we've had a big day, a really good day, and I think maybe people need a little break. So go have a snack. Thanks.
I loved hearing that glimpse of what you guys are doing next. So you guys, from your side, you can close the computer from Bonnie and Lisa's side. And we're going to keep talking just for a few more minutes. If anybody over here just wants to say anything before we go off the air.
Just a quick comment on the whole proprietariness? Proprietorship. It's very interesting because we're in academia for a reason. We're in academia to explore new things and to share those explorations, and to say that this is AK's proprietary MOOC whatever makes no sense to me. So being able to share presentations, articles, writing, whatever is important because we're in academia. And if we're, and to channel one of my former professors who's sadly no longer with us, if that's your mindset, then why the heck are you in academia?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. So you're saying that we need to have presentations just because we're in the academia?
No. Make them open. Make them accessible to others. So don't charge them money.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Just say, no, this is a presentation done at whatever conference. You can't Periscope this, or you can't do anything. I might say, well, today I have a really bad hair day, so I would appreciate you not periscoping my presentation. But other than that, if I'm presenting something academic and I'm an academic, I feel that I shouldn't be hiding behind a paywall of some sort.
I actually find it interesting. I can see that context when I put it in the corporate world, and I think about conferences that I went to when I worked in the telecom sector, corporate conferences. But even there, when you're presenting at a corporate conference, like, you don't present proprietary information. You present the marketing information that you want your company to be known. So in most cases, they're more than happy to, get the extra press coverage. And so I find the whole concept of not wanting to be out there a little bit odd, but
No dissenting opinions? Come on, there's got to be a devil's advocate here.
Oh, I'm not going to advocate for that. But I know it is a thing that people like have this sense that there's almost an economic value to ideas, and that they will lose if that gets put in a place where other people can see. So it just reading where good ideas come from and watching everything as a remix. It's like nothing you guys got is that original. Sorry, and certainly nothing I have is that original. So yeah, I got over that a long time ago. I thought though. I know we talk a lot about conferences, but I mean, I use a lot of those approaches when I teach. So I have, I have hangouts with my students, and they're completely optional. And I've tried online office hours by Google Hangouts. Sometimes students just want to talk. So just having that ability to converse like you do socially, which is not always possible, especially if you're teaching online or your students, if they just file out of class afterwards and that's your only vignette into seeing them, not every student wants to be in a conversation with their teacher. But I remember some of these online office hours where 3 or 4 students would just show up and they didn't even have any questions. They just kind of wanted to chat.
And I don't know, a part of me kind of feels like, if you're going to say, like, should we do this, or are we taking something away, like, monetarily from somebody else? Like Maha said, we're not in the sessions. We're not taking anything that's, kind of, I guess, locked down in some way. I mean, even when we talk about yesterday's keynote, I mean, that was one of the things that I was thinking about, is that keynote was public. They had on the website, like, this is open and public to anybody who wants to come. So in my head, I was thinking that was like, why didn't I just drive up there just for the keynote, right? I could have just, like, watched the keynote. So, I mean, if somebody would have periscoped that, or if somebody would have...
Amy and Jesse's is live, but we need you as the virtual buddy, so now that's a problem.
Right.
And it's the same conversations people are having, on the breaks there. They're standing around talking about the conference, the events, and their lives and whatever. So I just see it as just kind of an extension, not anything that's sitting on top of an event.
I mean, and that's like the world we live in nowadays, right? We live in a connected world. How are you going to stop people from talking to each other? It just doesn't make sense to me.
It's interesting. In thinking about the different types of conferences, I did have an opportunity a few years ago to go to a conference in one of the other disciplines I'm in linguistics, and I was super excited because most of the conferences that I've gone to have been pedagogy and ed tech related, where you have these opportunities to meet with people afterwards, go for a beer or a coffee or tea or whatever, and talk about these grand ideas. But what I noticed at that other conference was that people just didn't have time to talk or didn't want to talk. They were shuffled from session to session. Everything was packed in. At the end of the day, they were really tired. They just went back to their hotel rooms and slept until the next day, and I didn't find that conference really useful. I would have just preferred to read the conference proceedings or read a synopsis of their presentation rather than be shuffled like cattle from session to session and not have an opportunity to talk to people.
This gets me on my rant about conferences that don't provide lunches. Because, I saw exactly sort of this thing. They do all of these things, but if they don't provide a lunch and a space for people to connect, then, and then And then they make comments, well, lunch is the best time to go out and connect. I'm like, okay, that's great if you're already connected. But if you're not already connected, if you don't provide that space for people that aren't already connected to connect, then you're doing a disservice to the people that are coming to the conference in and of itself. Anyone else have any last thoughts or anything before we shut down? Or questions to ponder, as it were?
Well, I know that the on-site people have kind of already logged off, but I just wanted to thank them for inviting us into their session, because I think that was kind of a cool little thing that I don't know if have we done that before? Have we been actually in a session before, Rebecca?
No, this is the first time, and that's a big thank you to Bonnie Stewart, who invited us to present in her session. This is the first time we've done that type of presentation. We've got a couple of conference presentations coming up, one at ALN and one at DLearn, where we'll be doing something very similar.
Very exciting. That's really cool stuff.
I think we're done.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're closing up. Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
a wave to Scott as well, who joined us very briefly.
Say bye, Scott.
Yeah.
And a wave to everyone. And we are going to go off in 3, 2, 1.